In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast. This is the Washington football team preview show, and we've had a show every single game week, but Washington football team is out. But we continue anyway. The postseason is upon us. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. We are going to be talking to you guys about three things: two Washington football team focused topics, and then the NFL playoffs. The NFL playoffs we'll conclude with at the end. We're going to give you our divisional round picks and thoughts and things of that nature. We're going to begin previewing our Washington football team off-season series. So the idea behind it being, what does it take to build an NFL franchise? We have been struggling for the better part of 30 years at this point. So we're going to get into the details there of what we expect of this show. We were planning on releasing it today, but because the playoffs are still going on, because honestly, our minds are still on the NFL playoffs, we figured it would make more sense. Let the name come out. That's one. Two, let it be the offseason for everybody. And then we will launch officially the Washington football team offseason series. And then we're going to talk about quarterbacks. I am going to give Kadeen, K-Dot over here, a trade offer, basically. I'm going to say, hey, for example, for Baker Mayfield, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and Daron Payne, would you take it? Yes or no? Would you offer that? Right. You see his face, and we'll get into all that. And then again, we conclude with the NFL playoffs. But first, let's begin with the Washington football team off-season series of episodes that we're going to be putting out. I am super excited about it. Once again, it is about how do you build an NFL franchise? So the philosophical questions behind it. What is the role of the owner? What about the general manager, the head coach? How important is it that they're in sync? What if they're not? Things like that. K-Dot, what are your thoughts on the Washington football team offseason series that we're going to be coming out with in middle of February? And I guess, what are your expectations?
Yeah, so I mean, I just think it's been, everyone knows like the general aura of the Washington football team, right? Which is like fucking dysfunction, like clown shows, circus. Yep. Ashburn is just crazy. Or you get the inkling, like really bad story that comes out of Ashburn that just reinforces what we already think about the organization, and we keep it moving. And then there's always some new people in there, and who maybe it'll change now, and it doesn't change. It's like, oh God. So I just think that this offseason series allows us the opportunity to, number one, maybe diagnose and go through the history of what it is that led us up to this particular point in time. Everything basically beyond 91, right? So, I mean, we'll probably stick to the Dan Snyder era itself, but just why you have a franchise that was so used to having success no longer have it. What is that? Because you don't really see that all that often, right? Like you look across the NFL, the perennial powerhouses, you might have like a few bad years, maybe even a decade of mediocrity. And then you get back into the dance, right? Or you just have like maybe an ownership family, or there's a certain will that they have that, look, we're not going to be bad, and you just keep it moving. With Washington, it's like, Jesus, it's almost like we've switched franchise branding with like the Cincinnati Bengals or one of the, like when you hear about Washington, it's a laughing stock, but it's like, no, you're talking about one of the most proudest franchises in the league. So not only do I want to go through that history in a sense, but then look, everybody's had their one or two ideas, or us as Washington football team fans every offseason think, yep, that's the move that we need to make, and we'll be right there in it. And we're all guilty of it at some point, right? Yeah. But to like really go through and diagnose and look for where are their actual targets of opportunity, tangible targets of opportunity that'll change the tide for this team. And it's something that we can use as almost a benchmark to know. Like we're not experts, but it's almost a benchmark to know to a certain degree when they do make decisions, how it is we can feel if this is on the right track or wrong track. And it's something to keep us honest. So like every Washington fan has their own opinion, but for me and you, if we're going to continue this, then we're going to hold our feet to the fire and make sure people know that this is what we think is the recipe for success. And then if Washington goes through, we can kind of see, were we right? Were we wrong? And what was going on with the franchise going forward?
And, 3 Super Bowls to our name here. So like you said, a very proud franchise, and we want to get back to winning ways. And so really, I think what we're doing with this series is we're sort of packaging up that frustration, and we're taking a step back. A lot of times you're going to see podcasts and you're going to listen to ESPN and you're going to listen to NBC Sports Washington, Everyone's going to do their own type of coverage, but a lot of it is who's available this offseason in free agency, who does your team need to sign, and who does your team need to draft. That's all good and fine. That's going to be 99% of the coverage. What we're doing is going, hey, before we even get to that point, let's take that step back. Who is the owner? Does the owner, because people say, for example, we'll never win with Dan Snyder in charge. Is that a true statement? I mean, on the surface, I think it is, but we need to really dive into that. How is it that Dan Snyder is screwing this team over? That's a question, for example. Maybe he's not, for all we know. We've all just had the bias and it's in our head that the reason we've sucked is simply Dan Snyder. That's it. We very rarely say more than that. Aside from, stepping in, drafting RG3, stepping in, drafting Dwayne Haskins. Anyway, so we'll get there. But then also talking about the general manager, how important is it that the general manager, for example, select his or her own players over what a head coach may want? So there are the philosophies of best player available versus for fit. Well, so in the case of Marty Herney, Martin Mayhew, and Ron Rivera, are they on the same page? I assume they are. When Dan Snyder asked Ron Rivera, who do you want here? Ron Rivera said, for GM, I want Martin Mayhew or Marty Herney. I love them both. I don't know what to do. And to Dan Snyder's credit, he said, why don't you have both of them? He actually said that. There are articles that say that Dan Snyder said, why don't you just hire both? Seems like a good owner move, right? So again, we're going to chat about this. And then, of course, Ron Rivera hiring Scott Turner, the importance of the relationship between the two. I think that's how Scott Turner got this gig. And then Jack Del Rio, on the flip side, they haven't worked together before on the coaching capacity. So how did that come to be? And are they on the same page? Because we assume Ron Rivera is defensive minded. Jack Del Rio certainly is. Why did the defense sort of underperform this year? Or did it? We're going to get into all of this. Personally, I'm really excited for it. But these questions need to be answered so that you can be better informed for when you then ask the question, who should we get in free agency? And what do we need to do in the draft? And not just look at this year. Let's look at a couple years down the line. So those are my thoughts on it. I'm personally very excited to ask the question, who is the customer? I know we previewed that earlier. Is it Dan Snyder, for example? Are we here to serve him? Is the Washington football team here to serve Dan Snyder and his needs, or the fans? Are they one and the same? Are they different? I don't know. Any final thoughts on this, K-Dot, before we get into some trade scenarios?
What some of you said resonated with me, and it's I'll leave with one example, man. We can go on. I want to know, is Dan Snyder a singular figure? Like, is he, what aspects of it? Look,
interesting.
Rich guy, owns the team, says he was a fan. I'm sure throughout the long history of the NFL, there are examples of people that are like him. Have they had success? Like, I want to think that he's a singular evil because I don't want to have that many people around. But there is an element of, like, take for instance FedEx Field. We all hate it. He didn't build it. Like, there's a certain example of Jack Can't Cook took a really terrible thing, and maybe Dan Snyder's kept it going, of course, but he's also been locked into a contract for how many years as far as staying there. So it's like there's a certain balance that we need to make sure that we're putting things into perspective. Like, people want to blame Dan for the team not being in Washington. That's not his fault. It's not his fault,
right,
at all. But there's like, all right, well, to what degree can you have a Dan Snyder and still operate and work? What aspects are there in him that can still be a design for success on the field to make us happy and really not give a shit about the man up top? As most of us, if you talk to my parents or anybody else, they didn't really give a shit about what Jack Can't Cook was doing as long as the product on the field was proper.
Yeah. But we'll also get into, like, the importance of the quarterback, right? Because when two of the examples we cited, just jumping in, we're getting RG3, jumping in, we're getting Dwayne Haskins, Dan Snyder making RG3 the chosen one, right? So that once it was the next year, they were best friends. It was awkward, right? For everyone involved, the coaching staff involved. If they said anything to RG3, Dan Snyder had a problem with it. Right. So
and before RG3, it was Clinton Portis. And
exactly.
Before, like, there's a lot of it. Yeah.
And so, but the importance of the quarterback position and making sure that everyone's on the same page, when has that ever been the case? Right. And so it's really important that we go into, well, what are the feelings right now with Taylor Heineke, for example, or the quarterbacks I'm going to draw up trade offers for over here? And K-Dot's going to say yes or no, or counter. But It starts there, doesn't it? Like, that's a question we're going to investigate as well. Maybe you can be
There's
on
a
the
lot
same
of
page on any other number of positions, but if you're not on quarterback, is it bust? Can you never win? Like, how does that work? And so we'll
Did
go
Bill
into
Belichick
examples.
have manager? Did Bill Belichick have the front office backing when he wanted to bench fucking Drew Bledsoe in that brand new contract for Tom Brady? Did he
Great
do
question.
it anyway? Did they have a lot of success? I'm just saying there's a lot of shit that happens. I just don't want anybody to think that we're so fucking infinitely special and we just have this sort of situation happening in Washington. Look, what do we need to do to fucking win?
Right. Yeah. And that's what we're going to get into. So personally, very excited. Kate, that sounds like you're excited as well. And we're excited to bring it to you. And please, on this video, comment with any thoughts or questions that you have, and we will certainly answer them as we do the offseason series. Nothing is off limits. We just want to get down to what we feel is best as fans. Have your voice heard. Please comment on this video. Why don't we jump into some trade scenarios, K-Dot?
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, so as you know, and as a lot of you know, we need a quarterback. And that's the reality of the situation. So real quick, Taylor Heineke last year as a starter, a passer rating around 85, 86, which is not even close to where we need it to be, is bottom half of the league. And his QBR was bottom half as well at around 40. Okay, so we need to improve in that regard, because when you look at playoff teams, there actually is a relationship between the quarterback's passer rating and their ability to make the playoffs. The higher your passer rating, the more likely it is you're in the playoffs. The Cardinals, the Rams, the Buccaneers, I mean, you name it, the Chiefs, of course, you name it, those teams, Packers, all in. All of them are in. There were only a couple outliers, the Minnesota Vikings, everyone loves Kirk Cousins, right? And the Seattle Seahawks, because Russell Wilson missed a whole number of games. He actually had a very good year. And we'll get to him in a moment, but why don't we begin with, K-Dot, why don't you give me a name and we'll go ahead and do a trade offer.
I just want to say I kind of fundamentally disagree with you to a certain degree, as far as I still believe in running the football and playing defense, even this quarterback driven league.
Still important,
but
of course.
I think it's the most important. But
you're old school. I get it.
Look, I just think that there's not a lot of teams that are doing that, and the teams that do have success. San Francisco,
sure,
right? And like, I just think
the LA Rams just did it.
LA Rams, Baltimore, before all the injuries came up. Like, yes. I just think the Titans with Derrick Henry. Like, there is a certain degree of, if you run the goddamn football and not fuck up at quarterback, you're in the dance.
But by the way, not fuck up at quarterback is encapsulated within that passer rating, right? If the throws are easier because you run it well.
I get it. But there's also Josh Allen threw a 1-yard touchdown pass in that game, and his quarterback rating went down.
I see what you're saying.
Like, you see what I'm saying? It's just, there's a certain element of like,
sure,
okay, he played a perfect game. We all know he played a perfect game, but it's whatever. It's whatever.
Yeah. I think the point here is, over the course of a season, if you generally have better quarterback play than not, you're probably scoring points, getting in the end zone, stuff like that. So, but by the way, we're not too far on philosophy over there. Okay.
All right. Cool.
Okay. So name a quarterback.
So quarterbacks that should be in the realm of available next year for Washington,
and let's also throw the hat in the ring. Let's also assume that they are all perfect fits. Okay. Let's assume that they are perfect fits for the offense, and you can push back on that assumption. Okay, so
I don't give a shit.
Don't give a shit.
That part doesn't matter.
Forget it.
I don't believe in Scott Turner. So what the fuck does it matter? Scrap the whole scheme.
What they're comfortable with.
Scrap the scheme for the quarterback. Gives a shit.
We don't know if Scott Turner can do that.
Right, Scott needs to adjust to get the fuck out of the room. What the fuck are we talking about?
All right, fine. So then just name a quarterback.
We still need to back up the Brinks truck for fucking Mike McDaniels in San Francisco and just make him the offense coordinator, offensive god. It's just whatever you want to do on this side of the football, you got carte blanche, sir. That's how I want to do it.
Go ahead then.
All right, I'm just gonna throw a name out there, and I guess it'll be the benchmark. Okay. Matt Ryan. Okay, so in the last, let's see, how do we want to do this? I guess, do you want me to read last year's stats? Do you want me to read the stats from the last few years? It's only going to be passer rating, QBR, stuff like that. You do either or. I don't think with Matt, it's an interesting case because, I mean, he's getting up in age, so there might be that drop off that happens, right? So, like, what happened the last 3 years might not be indicative of what's going to happen next year.
That is a fair point. Let's go ahead and, you know what? I'll just give you last year's stats, okay? So, Matt Ryan, He's 36 years old. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. They had 67% completion, 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, only a 2.1 interception percentage rate. That's actually pretty good. A passer rating of 90.4, QBR 46.2. So the QBR of 46.2, again, 50 is average. So he was slightly below average. For Matt Ryan, I'm going to say a first round pick, third round pick. Do you say yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. That fast? That fast after the stats I read.
Spoiler alert, there's not a quarterback you're going to list, and I'm not going to be okay with trading.
All right, fine. So then I'm going to make these tougher trades then.
Okay, that's cool.
So then in that case, 2 firsts, a second, and Montez Sweat.
For Matt?
For Matt.
You said 2 firsts?
2 firsts, 1 second, Montez Sweat. For Matt Ryan.
No, I'm not doing that one.
Okay. What is the furthest you're willing to go in that case? We found quick yes. We found a no.
I'm rethinking my first quick yes. Hang on.
First and the third. For
first and the 36-year-old quarterback.
7 Matt Ryan.
What did Matt Stafford go for last year? Do you remember?
I think it was a couple first rounders. Let me double check. Matt Stafford. I thought it was 2 firsts and maybe even a third as well. Let's see, trade details.
2 first rounds and a third round.
There it is. 2
yeah,
first and
I'll say the first and the third. I'll do for Matty.
Okay, first and a third you do for Matt. Okay. On your list, right? So there other names we're going to go through: Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr. We'll throw in the dream Aaron Rodgers scenario. Deshaun Watson. Where does he rank for you?
He's below the dream boats, right?
What's the
dream boats are Aaron Rodgers,
okay.
Russell Wilson to a lesser extent after this year.
Okay.
Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think those 3 are like upper echelon. The price could be ridiculous, and I want to entertain it.
Okay.
So like that is if Aaron Rodgers said, "Hey, I'm willing to come to Washington," my benchmark is 6 years worth of first round picks. Like and I'm not lying. Like we spent 30 years of not winning shit. If it means that we be in the dance next year, guess what? I'll trade the next 30 years of mediocrity for a fucking Super Bowl.
Yes, that's fair. I mean, with him,
Easy.
Age doesn't seem to matter, right? So Rodgers last season, let's just quickly talk about him with the benchmark of 6 first round picks. 38, right? 38 years old, but he's going to win MVP again. That's 2 straight years of winning MVP. He had 37 touchdowns, and do you know how many interceptions off the top of your head?
4, 6.
4. The answer is 4. Okay. 37 fucking touchdowns to 4.
I still think Tom Brady deserves it over him, but whatever.
That is asinine in my opinion. Passer rating of 111.9, QBR 68.8. That led the NFL. Interception rate of 0.8%. Touchdown rate of where is it? 7%. I think he led the NFL in both those categories. The percentages. Right, not total yards, not total touchdowns and stuff like that, but he was just south of that, having missed a game.
To me, the only thing with the Aaron Rodgers deal right now is that I think you could put together a lucrative enough package where Green Bay goes to Aaron and says, "Hey, bud, you got to go," because it's just there's too much for them to say no to. The bigger issue is, does Aaron want to do it? Right, so like I know when you have an Aaron Rodgers, you're also bringing Devontae Adams at that point because he's going to go wherever Aaron goes.
Okay.
So like the idea of having those 2 guys along with Terry McLaurin and that defense and money to spend and Aaron Rodgers knowing that you're willing to spend the money, I'm George Allen, like in the sense of I don't give a shit about draft picks.
This is the big question then. Does Terry give up number 17?
No, I don't think Devontae will want him to.
You don't think Devontae Adams would want number 17 at the new spot?
I don't think he's going to take it from Terry. I think that would be something as far as wide receivers around the league. People would look at Devontae a little different. So okay. I don't think Devontae would press that issue.
Okay. So Rodgers wears 12. Devontae wears what over here? Let's say the
7.
7. Oh, I kind of like that. Okay. What did he wear at? He was Fresno State, wasn't he?
I don't remember what he wore.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly look that up. Devontae Adams, Fresno State. I want to say he was over there. Yeah, he was. What number do you wear over there? This is great. Great podcasting on my part. Couldn't even tell you.
15.
15? Could wear 15 over here.
You can wear 15.
What was that? Steven Sims last year?
Yeah.
Trying to think about this.
It can go.
Oh, was Dax Milne, wasn't it?
Like anyone that's
Yeah.
not named Terry
Milne.
McLaurin, he can request the jersey number.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
that's the I think the thing with Terry is that you don't want to go to a guy that you think is like a Pro Bowl level player and be like, hey, I'm taking your number.
Right.
It's one thing if Terry's just played the 1 year. And then Terry would say, no, Devontae, I look up to you. Here, take it.
Right.
I don't think it's that sort of scenario.
Well, let's go back though. 6 first-round picks. You would give up 6.
If it got me Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, yeah.
So they literally say, and Devontae Adams is still a chance, right? I mean, so odds are he would come, I think, if Rodgers were to come here. But right now, you are the general manager of the Washington football team. The Green Bay Packers send you an email, fax, whatever, give you a call. 6 first-rounders right now, and no negotiation. You're going yes.
Yep, I'm going yes, and
Okay.
I'm asking if Scott Turner's okay, or do you want somebody else, Aaron?
I think that's fair. If you're giving up 6 first-round picks, you're giving this dude a lot of control.
And that's I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers with a solid defense, which is what I think this team could have if we spend the money properly.
Sure.
I think that's a winning combo.
What is the highest number of first-round picks you're willing to give? Is it 6?
Let's say 6. Even though I know 6 is a ridiculous number, I might be a little hyperbolic. Like if you put a gun to my head, maybe it changes a little bit, but 6 sounds good.
Okay, now let's switch gears. I'm going to give you a quarterback here, Jimmy Garoppolo. So here's the thing. I actually think there's a very real chance this happens, and I don't know my feelings on it. I don't think I'm excited. That's certainly not the first thing that comes to mind, because Ron Rivera recently said that he wants a quick twitch guy. Now, what that means is you see it, you throw it. Simple as that. Okay. And you need the ability to make all the throws. I think Garoppolo is the beneficiary of a brilliant system that Kyle Shanahan has. I think when he was in New England, he had a fast, sort of a quick strike offense, or not quick strike. That's very different, actually. Let me rephrase. Quick passing. It's a lot of short, quick passes in New England.
West Coast, like in
West
operation.
Coast, exactly. And you would assume Scott Turner likes to run something similar as well. So in that sense, even the fit is there. Garoppolo, 30 right now. Okay, 30 years old. He's got plenty of time left. I know we think about him as maybe a bit older, but he is young at the quarterback position. One of the younger starters in the league. What if this were, let's go one first rounder, 1 second rounder. Let's start there. Would you do it?
Yeah, and throw in Daron Payne.
And throw in Daron Payne. So you do first, second, and Daron Payne for Jimmy Garoppolo.
If we're on the fence, let's just take it over the top.
I think that would anger some fans. I think we could get him for less.
Don't give a fuck. Don't care. Like that. But that's my thing. Is that like I think that a first and a second should be enough to go get him. I'm saying I'm willing to do a bit more.
Okay.
I like Jimmy G more than I think other people do. I do understand Kyle Shanahan's system. I already told you what I feel about Mike McDaniels, their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, you did.
In San Fran. I like Jimmy G. I actually think San Francisco's going to keep him. I really do.
And Trey Lance is going to sit another year?
Yeah, I think Trey Lance is looked upon as the long-term project. But I also think that if you look at what Mel Kiper's watching with Washington, a Jimmy G and a Malik Willis makes sense. Like in the same sense of like Malik Willis to me is this year's Trey Lance. Okay. He's a long-term project at quarterback.
And Malik goes pick 11 overall?
Which is ridiculous to me. I
still
think
trading the first round pick. Are you trading next year's first and not this year's?
That's all right. Once again, I think Jimmy could go for less than a first round pick.
I think
in the sense
too.
of if you packaged it properly. Like if you said, hey, we'll do a 2 or 3 and Daron Payne, I don't say no to that necessarily.
I think we could get him for 2 seconds and a third or something like that. Honestly.
2 seconds. I think that there's something out there because that contract right now, that last year, that contract looks like they overpaid a bit for Jimmy G.
Sure.
So that's one of those things that you got to kind of offset, right? So I think San Francisco would be in a place to do it. But that's the thing is that I think San Francisco really likes Jimmy.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you remember, he got traded over from New England to San Francisco, and they went on that like 5-6 game winning streak, and that's when they signed the deal with him because it looked like they were going to be 15-1 every season, and so he ends up getting this big deal. We'll see what happens over there. They're still in the playoffs.
But that's the thing. It's a limited tool set, right? Like he reminds me of a better Taylor Heineke in the sense of like his tools.
I do think that he does fit some of Rivera's requirements here. Mm-hmm. So it will be interesting. That's a name to monitor moving forward. Let's talk Baker Mayfield. Okay. That's a name that's come up a few times. He's going to stay, in my opinion, in Cleveland. But let's say he didn't. Let's say that you could get him. Let's say you had to pry him from Cleveland, okay? Because they're intent on keeping him, but you go, you know what? We can make a pretty good offer here, and they would definitely say yes to it. What is that offer?
A 1 and Duran pay?
A 1 and Duran? I think they say no to that.
A 1 and 3 and Duran pay?
I think they take at least 2 first. He's 26.
I know that's the thing. But they've got pressure on them to make a decision now. But they got pressure on them to make a decision whether or not you're going to overpay this dude. Yeah. Because they ain't going to franchise tag him.
No. Well, they picked up his 5th-year option, so I mean he'll go into a final year.
My thing is that do I think Baker Mayfield is worth paying that much more to Jimmy Garoppolo because of the 4-year age difference? And that to me, but could you convince me 2 first, no player for Baker? Maybe I'm listening, but I feel as though they might have to throw something else in for me.
Yeah, 17 touchdowns, 13 picks. I mean, he regressed 2020, and he was hurt. He's hurt.
Like I'm throwing out this whole last season, and I don't know what Kevin Stefanski was doing starting him. Case Keenum should have been the starter ever since we knew Baker was hurt. I don't understand it.
Totally agree. Because if you look at, it's also been up and down for Baker. So here we go. His rookie year, 27 touchdowns. I think he set a record. It was close. 14 interceptions. Then the next year, 22 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, then 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and again, 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So he seems to be a bit inconsistent with how his play goes overall. But that being said, if you put him in the right system and he's healthy, we have a great offensive line. We talked a lot about that last week. Let's see what he can do because he prides himself on his accuracy and he can make all the throws. Now, we've heard that from Ron as well. He needs to be able to make all the throws. Baker can do that.
2 first, 2 thirds, Daron Payne. Give me Baker and throw in Kareem Hunt, guys.
Oh, interesting. I like that. I think I would say yes to that actually. If I'm a Washington fan, I think I'd be pretty excited about that.
Converting Antonio Gibson to wide receiver, just have him work the slot, and then
we do need to utilize. We're all over the place, but we do need to utilize Antonio Gibson better. We've talked about it. Derek Carr. I wanted to get to Derek Carr because he's a hot name. Right. So they just got knocked out of the playoffs. He declared himself fairly well in that playoff game as well. I thought he did pretty well. This past season, 23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, a QBR of 52.7. So a little above average, and a passer rating of 94, which is decent. What are your thoughts on Derek Carr?
He's in the Jimmy G territory for me. I might like him a little more.
I think he's better, but
I like him a little more than Jimmy G, but the trade value, yeah, you keep me right around there. 30 years old, shown flashes, hasn't been consistent enough to say that he's the guy. It's I look at Jimmy G and I look at Derek Carr and I say they're Kirk Cousins light.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe just a slightly not Kirk Cousins. Because I mean, neither one of them really proved it to us as far as their clutch gene yet. And then outside of that, because they haven't played in that many games that matter.
Right.
So I don't know. But I look at Kirk Cousins' production and being like, dude, he's automatic for this much. I can't say that either one of those guys is automatic for this amount of production. So yeah, I think right around that Jimmy J trade value,
dude.
I wouldn't.
Sorry to cut you off. I was looking at Russell Wilson's numbers. Finish up what you were saying on Carr real quick, and then
I'm done. I'm done with it. No.
So then, in that case, Russell Wilson. Okay, so 33. He, according to Rap Sheet, Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, supposedly exploring his options. So we're going to see what happens over there. That gets very interesting if he truly is and he would be interested in Washington, as Mike Garafolo, also of NFL Network, had mentioned was a possibility or at least a decent fit, because this past year in 14 games, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That is a great ratio. And he had a passer rating of 103.1 amongst the league top and a QBR of 53.9. So like you could see in those first few games when he was back, including the Monday Nighter against us where we beat them, he wasn't the same for a while. And he started to look like himself again down the stretch.
Too little, too late.
Too little, too late. But this does present sort of a golden opportunity, right? Because now a premier quarterback like Russell Wilson could be available. It sounds like he's exploring. So let's go 3 first-round picks and Daron Payne.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd do it. Like I said, he's got tier, right? He's got tier. So like if I'm saying what I'd give for Aaron Rodgers, I'd absolutely give it to Russ himself. Yeah, and I think Russ, as far as just a vibe with this team, would be a nice. He feels like a Ron Rivera guy.
Yeah, I mean, no character issues. We're gonna get to Deshaun Watson in a moment because he does have the legal stuff going on. But like, you don't need to worry about that, right? Like, it's not like Russ is about to get into anything like that. He is just a beast. Everyone in Seattle loves him. I mean, they all want him to stay. This would be one hell of a get for the organization.
Sierra at FedEx Field makes it really, really enticing.
I may actually go to a game at FedEx, depending on the company over there. I mean, God. And the year before, Russell Wilson, 40 touchdowns, 13 picks. The year before that, 31 touchdowns, 5 picks. 35 touchdowns, 7 picks. And in 2017, 34 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I mean, the dude is a bona fide superstar.
Yeah.
Like, there is a reason
that's
people
a shell
keep
of
saying,
itself.
let Russ cook, right? Let Russ cook. They're saying it over and over and over again. We would certainly give him the opportunity to do exactly that. So let's round up with probably the most polarizing figure, Deshaun Watson, who, I mean, I would trade the most if his legal situation were to be cleared up, right? Fully resolved. He's in the clear. I'm willing to trade just about anything for this guy. Just about anything. You talked about 6 first rounders for Rodgers. I would do that immediately for Watson. I don't care. He's 26 years old. Yes, he had a year off of football. You got him for the rest of his career with this defense on a bad Houston Texans team, fresh off of trading DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best wide receiver in football, probably top 3 or top 5 at this point, considering his recent production. 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's without DeAndre Hopkins. That does not include any rushing figures. That's just passing. A passer rating of 112.4. That is unreal. That is an MVP season. And 63.7 QBR. The year before that, with DeAndre Hopkins, 26 touchdowns, 12 picks, passer rating of 98, but the QBR is 70.5. I mean, the dude, we said bona fide superstar for Russell Wilson. I don't think Russell Wilson is honestly even close to what Deshaun Watson can do on this football field. What would you trade for him before we get to the divisional round?
Anything included up to the team name.
I agree. This is the type of thing where you go, we've waited 30 years. And this is all, for me, at least, is under the assumption he is cleared.
It does not matter to me.
It doesn't matter to you.
Nope.
Let's say, so he's guilty on all charges. You're still trading.
Worst he sits out a year.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. And if you're looking at it from just a football standpoint, I just want the Washington football team to win or whatever we're named. I understand the view. I
literally don't give a shit. I do not care. I'm a Washington football team fan. Dan Snyder's the owner. We were running around here.
I appreciate your
honesty. We were running around here.
Yeah.
We were running around here yelling a racist name and fighting for it up until 3 years ago. We're all a bunch of assholes. All right. Give me Deshaun in a heartbeat. I don't give a fuck. I literally don't care. Let him pay whatever he needs to pay in the civil suits. It doesn't matter. Ben Roethlisberger was basically hoisted like a goddamn pharaoh out of goddamn Heinz Field last year. And we all know what happened there. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I do not give a fuck. Let him figure out what he needs to do to settle with everybody. I'm not saying that what he did was absolutely correct.
Right.
I have my own opinions on it, but whatever. I don't care. I don't like, this is the dude that, like, he makes your team go. He's the franchise quarterback. We hear enough shit from anybody already. Just embrace the villain role. Fuck it.
So here's the thing. I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of fans are thinking it, but are too afraid to say it. He is an unbelievable football player, and there's precedent for this. Michael Vick, Kareem Hunt, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, you name it. And if you have talent, you're getting a second chance. So why not be the team that's willing to give the second chance to? I would be stunned, honestly. And I say this even with cautious optimism and with the nerves of like, oh, we're going to blow this game. We're going to blow this game. We'd win a Super Bowl if Deshaun Watson came here. I'm confident in that. If we were to place a $100 bet for the rest of Deshaun Watson's career, he's never winning a Super Bowl, I'm not touching that. I'm saying he's going to. The question is where.
Yeah.
And so why not trade for that guy? All the stats back him. All the plays, the mind-blowing plays you see on your television, back him.
The only thing that gives me any pause of hesitation is the percentage of salary that goes to quarterback after the rookie deal. Sure. Bothers me a little bit. But with him, I give him a Patrick Mahomes deal. Like, I'm saying, you're never playing for another franchise, sir.
Yes.
Again, here's what it is. This the next 15 years, this is what your contract looks like. Here's what we do. It'll be based on a percentage, so it'll leave us to be able to continue to get you weapons. And all of it's guaranteed. Here you go.
Fair enough. I'm not disagreeing with you, K-Dot. I think we're on the same page here, and it speaks to the desperation that we're looking for at quarterback over here. Let's conclude with just the NFL Divisional Round real quick. Let's run through some picks and thoughts, beginning with Bengals Titans. What do you have in this game, K-Dot?
It's a game where I know I'm rooting for Cincinnati. They've been amazing to watch. I love Joe Burrow, even though he does a terrible job taking care of himself. I am picking Tennessee, not because I think that they're an overall better team, but because I believe that if Derrick Henry gets this game, the Bengals are fucking tired. They have to be. They've been fighting and clawing for how many fucking weeks to get in this thing? Last week, like they've just been to think that I got to go to Tennessee. I got to pull down this 500-pound running back who run a fucking sub-4 second 40. That's a hard task. And I think Derrick Henry in these playoffs was just hungry to start running over motherfuckers.
We've talked about the importance of running the football. We've talked about the importance of, yes, analytics are pointing to throw more. And look, in that sense, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, fantastic. But the human element to it is fatigue. The human element to it is Cincinnati won their first playoff game in about 31 years. That was their Super Bowl last week.
Right.
They're emotionally spent, I'm willing to bet. And if they're not, it doesn't matter, because I don't think they can stop Derrick Henry. And if Derrick Henry looks slow, I don't think they can stop Deontay Foreman. And if he doesn't look great, I don't think they can stop Julio and AJ Brown. I just don't see them. So I take the over in this game. The Titans do have a sneaky good defense.
Yep.
And so when you pair those things together, and Jeffrey Simmons, their defensive tackle, has been playing an unbelievable season. You just don't hear about him because his name's not Aaron Donald, and locally his name's not Jonathan Allen. He's brilliant. So to me, I have the Titans as well. I don't think the Bengals can slow the Titans down. They can't. They just can't.
That fucking Raiders game went down the wire, and that Raiders team is who I think Washington was last year with a less good defense.
And did you see? Sorry to cut you off. Did you see how well Josh Jacobs ran the ball?
Yeah, amazingly. But that's the thing, is that like the Raiders are not that good. They were like we were last year. They weren't deserving of being in the playoffs. I don't think Tennessee is worthy of a number one seed, especially when we're looking at Buffalo and fucking Kansas City there. I get it, but Tennessee belongs to the playoffs. Like as far as that division being weak, I get it, but they deserve to be in the playoffs. And I think with Derrick Henry coming back, people are sleeping on what the bread and butter of this team is, and you're going to start seeing it come back.
Okay, so you and I both have the Titans for the same reason, Derrick Henry. Let's move to the Saturday night game, which I think has the potential to surprise. It is intriguing. The San Francisco 49ers go to the Green Bay Packers. K-Dot, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Aaron Rodgers is a god.
You trade 6 first-round picks for him.
I trade 6 first-round picks for him. I'm picking San Francisco. And the reason I'm picking San Francisco, I get the Cowboys game down the stretch. If they had continued playing the way they played at the beginning of that game all the way through, I think that I'd feel a little bit more confident about this pick. But you were the one that even said it last week, and it's the same thing I was looking at. This is the matchup that I've been circling. This is the one that I've been circling. This is a team in San Francisco that I don't give a fuck who you are. You do not want to play these guys. And it's based on run the football and stout defense. Now, if Nick Bosa and Fred Warner can't go, that's drastically different. But I think if they can get one of those two, Bosa over Warner, this is the team that can actually do a lot. And I actually think on offense, what people are not looking at is that San Francisco after I think it was week 10, when they figured out.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Tell us.
They figured out you can give Deebo Samuel the ball out of the backfield. They didn't do it before week 10. He's the most dangerous motherfucker maybe in the NFL at times.
Motherfucker to tackle.
I actually think that Terry McLaurin is a lot more like Deebo Samuel than people give him credit for. We just don't use him in the proper way.
Interesting.
Because Terry's great in space, man. I just don't think we don't do it enough. And he's very physical. After they decided that we're going to give Deebo Samuel the ball, it's been fucking lights out. Yeah, they've lost 2 games. One of the Tennessee Titans that I'm talking about before.
Good team.
Good team. And then one to the Seattle Seahawks. You were just talking about Russell Wilson. He was playing as great as he can. It's a division game. Shit happens. But these dudes, they can fucking play. And if you run the ball enough and keep Aaron on the sidelines, you can't tell me that I don't see the time is expiring in the fourth quarter. Aaron Rodgers is on the sideline. He has a great game statistically, but he doesn't get his one more shot to go win it. I can totally see that occurring again.
I think so I agree with you in that this is a nightmare matchup for Green Bay, right? Any team that can play really good defense and can run the ball with Mike McDaniels and Kyle Shanahan running the offense on the other side of it, a tough out. Absolutely a tough out. This Green Bay Packers defense to me is good enough to stand up to San Francisco. On the defensive side of the ball, even if Bosa and Warner play, they are banged up, and A.J. Dillon's a big boy, and Aaron Jones is shifty as hell, and Rodgers and Devontae Adams are unstoppable. And I think they're on a mission after they, bowed out last year against the Tampa Bay Bucks, and the Bucks are weak this year without Chris Godwin, without Antonio Brown, and the Packers again healthy. Jair Alexander should be back. I'm going to pick the Packers, but I will not be surprised if the 49ers do it. And if the 49ers do it, it's Deebo and it's George Kittle, who only had one catch last week. Guaranteed, I think Green Bay can stop the run a bit early. And then look out. George Kittle has been waiting by blocking, and he could erupt. But I'm picking Green Bay.
There's one last thing on the Green Bay deal. After their bye week at week 13, they played Chicago, Baltimore, Cleveland, Minnesota. Minnesota was without Kirk Cousins. It was Sean Mannion out there at quarterback. Yep. The Cleveland Browns game was the shell of Baker Mayfield. Baltimore Ravens had Hundley play. Lamar wasn't there. Yeah. And it was close. And the Chicago Bears rookie quarterback. So, I'm looking at what have you done for me lately? And I think Green Bay is fielding the best team.
You're making the Dallas argument.
I'm just, who have you played for me lately? You guys have not played last week. When you did play against the Lions, you did sit at a certain point, and the Lions got that win. I'm sorry. I don't feel as confident in that team.
Yeah. Again, I would not be surprised if the 49ers win. And the potential for a 49ers Rams NFC Championship game after the last week of the season game they had would be unbelievable. Why don't we jump into that game? Because I know we need to wrap up quickly.
Okay.
Rams, Bucks. Who do you have?
Bucks, Tom Brady. That's it.
I'm going to go Rams, Cam Akers. If they can't stop him and he looks fresh, look out. Because the way they used Matt Stafford last week is the way they've wanted to use him the whole season. That is what they've wanted to do. The Rams, believe it or not, they have Cooper Kupp, they have Odell Beckham, they have all these guys. It is about running the ball. And Cam Akers sets everything up. Stafford was 13 of 17, just 17 attempts for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. He ran for 1 on a QB sneak. That's efficient. It protects Stafford from the big moments, and then he thrives in them once they do come out. I'm going with the LA Rams in that one.
As far as the Rams go, Arizona, Kyler Murray without DeAndre Hopkins, and his first playoff game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Outside of that, their defense against the run, 20th.
Okay.
A different game.
Okay. It is a different game. And I do expect that the Bucs will exploit some weaknesses, but I think the Rams are going to get after Brady. He is not mobile. And Tristan Wirfs may not play. So I'm picking the Rams there. Final game and the biggest one, Bills Chiefs. I know
Chiefs.
who I've got.
I got the Chiefs because I had the Chiefs Bucks in the Super Bowl. I'm continuing with that. It's really hard to pick against Buffalo after the game that you saw them play last week. I will say this. I picked the Patriots because I don't pick against Bill Belichick. Same way you're not going to see me pick against Tom Brady. Spoiler alert, the rest of the playoffs, you're not going to see me do it. Even though I picked the Chiefs to beat the Bucks. When we actually have to do this, I'm not picking against Tom Brady.
Okay.
That New England team is not good. And I think that they peaked around Thanksgiving.
Which New England team?
The Buffalo played last week.
Okay.
They peaked at Thanksgiving. They gave everything they could get around that Thanksgiving week, first week of December, and it's been fucking downhill sledding ever since. That was just two totally. Buffalo did what they were supposed to do against that New England. And I don't want to take anything away because it was a perfect game by Josh Allen. But I just think from a talent standpoint, totally different thing now.
I think the Bills are going to win. They've done it already. I don't think Chris Jones played in that game, so that's big. But I do think Buffalo, they also seem like, they've been waiting, and they've waited for this. This is what they've waited for. They've done it once already. They can do it again. I got Buffalo. So those are your picks. Quickly recapping them. Let's go in reverse order this time. I've got the Bills. K-Dot's got the Chiefs. I've got the Rams. K-Dot's got the Bucks. Then K-Dot's got the 49ers. And I have the Packers. Although I think K-Dot may be right on this one. And then we both agreed the Tennessee Titans. And so that's going to wrap up divisional round playoff coverage over here, the previews and picks. And this was District Divided. This was the Washington Football Team preview show where we're now previewing the offseason series. I'm Amit. That is K-Dot. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you again next Friday afternoon where we're going to talk about the championship games and more offseason coverage for you guys. All right. Take it easy. Enjoy.
Peace, people.